Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Ask Cindy. I'm so happy you're here today because we're diving into a topic that so many of us can relate to. Have you ever found yourself feeling like you need to do it all, be it all, and achieve it all, even when you're running on empty? Maybe you've noticed that after trauma or a difficult experience, you push yourself even harder to be perfect, to prove something, or to take control of everything around you. Now, before we go any further, I want you to reflect on this. Have you ever caught yourself overworking, overgiving, and feeling guilty for not doing more, even when you're exhausted? If this resonates with you, you're not alone. Today, we're going to talk about the Superwoman syndrome, a tendency for women to overachieve after trauma, and why it's tied to the imbalance of masculine energy. I'll be sharing some insights into the emotional and spiritual causes of this behavior, and I'll guide you on how to start releasing the need to control hyperproductivity. So let's get started. First, let's talk about what we mean when we say superwoman syndrome. It's that feeling that you need to be everything to everyone: the perfect partner, the perfect mother, the perfect employee, the perfect friend. If you're a woman who's been through trauma, whether it's loss, betrayal, or a challenging life event, you might have turned into this overachieving, hyperproductive persona as a way to cope. You might have even convinced yourself that in order to survive, you need to be strong, independent, and in control of every situation. Problem with this or that over time, this drive to achieve can lead to burnout, stress, and disconnection from your true self. Think about it. After trauma, we often experience deep vulnerability. We feel we need to protect ourselves from pain or loss again. The response? We go into hyperdrive, thinking that if we just work harder, stay busier, or prove our worth through our achievements, we won't feel that hurt again. Does that sound familiar? I know it does for so many women I've worked with, and even for myself at times. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Our society places a huge emphasis on masculine energy, which is often associated with doing, achieving, and controlling. And for many women, especially after trauma, this energy becomes dominant. This isn't to say that masculine energy is bad. It's absolutely necessary. But when it becomes too dominant in your life, it leads to disconnect from your feminine energy, the energy of being, receiving, and flow. When trauma strikes, we often default to masculine energy because it feels safe. It's about action, getting things done, and having control over the external world. But here's the catch: the more we lean into this energy, the more we lose touch with our natural rhythm. We become disconnected from our intuition, our emotions, and our ability to simply be. And over time, this imbalance can lead to a chronic state of exhaustion and burnout. Can you relate to that feeling of always pushing and never being able to stop? That's basically masculine energy running unchecked. I want to share a story with you. I remember a time in my life when I was on full on superwoman mode. After a very difficult personal loss, the loss of my son, I threw myself into my work. I built up my business and helping others, and I believed the more I achieved, the more I could prove my worth, and I could shut out anything I was avoiding feeling what I was feeling, and I would just work harder, and I wouldn't sleep, and I would go into overdrive. So it wasn't just about proving my worth to the world, but to myself. Then There was this one morning I woke up completely exhausted. My body was sore, my mind was foggy, I felt emotionally drained. I basically ignored my need for rest, my need to feel nurtured, and my need to connect with myself on a deeper level. It was like running on fumes, but I couldn't stop. I felt like I had to keep going, that if I slowed down for even a moment, everything would fall apart. It meant facing the things I'd been avoiding. It meant facing the things I had stuffed down for so long. It meant looking at saying, yeah, maybe I made a mistake, or I made a wrong choice here, or anything that required this introspection of the great gaping hole and pain I was feeling was something that was worth avoiding. And that's the thing. That's when I realized I was operating from a place of fear and control. I wasn't allowing myself to just be. I become so identified with being productive that I forgot what it felt like to rest, to feel my emotions, and receive love and support from others. So, how do we release this need for control and hyperproductivity? First of all, it's important to acknowledge that this need for control is often rooted in fear. Fear of being vulnerable, fear of being hurt again, or fear of being seen as weak, which was my issue. I didn't want to be seen as weak at all. I was always the strong one. I was always the independent one, you see. So to start releasing this, you need to reconnect with your feminine energy. This doesn't mean abandoning your drive or your desire to succeed. It means finding balance. First, you want to practice self-compassion. Acknowledge that it is okay to not always be on. It's okay to take breaks. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You are enough just as you are. Can you let that sink in? Secondly, learn to receive. For so many of us, especially after trauma, receiving help can feel difficult. We've been conditioned to think that we must give, 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 give. True balance comes from learning to receive love, support, and care from others, and from yourself. You gotta remember, this world is a mirror. Whatever you're doing is going to be reflected outside. People simply show you as you are, and that is a hard pill to swallow. So everything begins with how you treat yourself. The relationship with yourself, I need not remind you, sets the tone for how everyone else is treating you. Remember this. Third, set boundaries. One of the most important ways to protect your energy is to set clear boundaries. This means saying no when you need to and prioritizing rest and not overcommitting. I can't stress that enough. I deal with a lot of, I will call them blue auras. These are my favorite people in the whole world. And I call them blue auras because this is their dominant color. And the blue aura uh, finds their sense of joy by giving and making others happy. Putting a smile on another person's face gives them a smile on their face. Here's the problem. They tend to overgive to everyone else but themselves, and then sooner or later find themselves resentful because they've taken on too much. It's a very common thing. And they are the ones especially that need to learn clear boundaries. So I'm not sure if you're predominantly a blue aura, but if you are, if I'm talking to you, please remember the importance of having clear boundaries. All right, next one. Honor your emotions. Don't push your emotions aside or suppress them. Okay, I am the queen of this. I'm the first one to tell you that if you want chaos in your external world, it's because you're suppressing your emotions, because you're biting down, holding them out, and it's not good. You need to feel these things. You need to let them out, or they will come at the most awkward times when you explode in rare moments and or There's chaos outside and a continuous chaos because you're refusing to acknowledge what the turmoil that's going on within. So it's time to give yourself permission to feel. When we allow ourselves to feel, we stop living in fight or flight mode and we create a space for healing. Now, I want to hear from you. After hearing all of this, I have a couple of questions I want you to think about. First question: have you ever felt like you needed to be a superwoman, especially after trauma? And what were the signs that you were pushing yourself too hard? Second, what does balance between masculine and feminine energy look like to you? How can you begin to integrate more flow into your life? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story and how you're working through this. Remember, healing and growth aren't about doing more. They're about being, feeling, and allowing yourself to receive what you need. You don't have to keep proving your worth through productivity. You are worthy of love, rest, and balance. If you're ready to dive deeper into this work and shift into a more balanced life, check out the links in the description for my coaching services. I'd love to help you create a life that honors both your masculine and feminine energies. Thank you for being here today. I can't wait to continue this journey with you. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you don't have to do it all alone.